Everyone, Toshi here. We have a new leaked patch for Honkai Star Rail literally 5 days before the game even comes out. And they had some tweaks and a little bit of kit changes, which really surprised me. A slight rework to one of the characters. We'll get into that. They did change around some of the light codes. Thank you again, Leonis, if I'm saying your name right. Anyways, let's get right into it. So for the very first character, Bronya, they pretty much nerfed her elemental skill. So what you did before was you dispelled a debuff on a single ally, right? We all knew that. And then she gave that ally a CR push, which means that that character that she gave the CR push to or use her elemental skill on would then take the turn right away. And then that would increase their damage by a percentage for 1 turn. So we knew how Bronya's elemental skill worked. However, after, it will do everything it does here already, but the change is that whenever you use the skill on Bronya, it will not give her the take turn. So if you use the elemental skill on Bronya, she will then not take the turn again, if that makes sense. That is a pretty sizable nerf, especially for a character like Bronya when you build her as a hybrid. And she also does damage on her own, right? Because she has a 100% crit rate with her basic attacks, if you didn't know. And also, the way that Pride explained it here was that it was a way to get free energy to keep permanent uptime on her ultimate, which makes sense, right? Because you're giving yourself more energy whenever you're using your elemental skill. So you're getting a lot of energy to be able to then funnel towards your ult, and you're able to use your ult more often because you had more energy from constantly using your elemental skill. So yeah, that was a pretty broken mechanic, but to see it nerfed is a little disappointing. It will make it a little harder to build the character, so you're going to probably have to give her a lot more energy restoration on top of speed, and then probably, some damage. If you want resistance, you'll go for resistance instead of damage. Anyways, I'm done rambling there, but yeah, just know that this is a pretty hard nerf to Bronya, in my opinion. She's still the best character in the game by far. Next up, we have Welt. Now, this one is very interesting. So this was one of his traces, which I did make a video on Welt, and I'm glad that I held off on that and uploading it. We'll probably upload it in a couple of days here. But the change is one of his traces gave 25% additional damage on his ult. Now what it does is whenever Welt uses the ultimate, so his synthetic black hole, then the targets affected by the synthetic black hole will receive more damage for X turns. So what this means is this is a damage amplification for the whole team, not just himself, which is massive, right? This was just a flat damage increase for Welt overall whenever he uses ult, but now the ultimate will increase the damage that the enemy receives by everyone, which is massive. That is a net positive for him. It's a net positive for anyone that uses him. And it's a net positive for any DPS that you also use in a team. Because remember, Welt is mostly a utility debuffer character, right? He has a bunch of slows in his kit. He has the strongest slows in the game. He has CR decrease, like he decreases the CR of enemies, right? You know how Bronya increases the CR of allies? Well, then Welt can decrease the turn order of the enemies, which is very, very useful. Pairing these two together probably really, really good now, considering that this is a nice buff to the character's kit. So he'll probably be pretty much higher on the, reroll tier list because of this change here. Now, this is my favorite one. I can't believe they did it, but they did it. I gotta give Hoyo credit for this. This makes me really happy. Himiko. They buffed Himiko. This surprised me so much. I did not expect this to happen. I'm very happy it happened because, as you all know, we made a video on her. I also did get her in the final CBT, and when I was using the character, I love Himiko, right? I think she's a very nice character, especially from Honkai Impact 3rd. It's very unfortunate, the tragedy that she faced there. And the tragedy she also faced here was that she was garbage. She was bad. She wasn't really anything outside of an AoE damage dealer for farming. You would use her with Herda. That's pretty much all you would use her in the situations with Herda against AoE wave clearing. That's pretty much it. That's awful. But with this change here, this allows her to do more additional damage. It helps with killing waves. It helps with boss battles, especially when you have bosses that have the little minions, that some of the little minions, right, like Varrog. It helps with the Varrog hands. It really does help because this is more DPS on the character's kit. So here, basic attack has an 80% base chance to burn the enemies for 3 turns. This was the original kit of Himiko. And after the buff, Himiko's every attack, right, her elemental skill, her basic attack, her ultimate, has a percentage chance to inflict burn on enemies for X turns. This is a net positive. Not only now that you don't have to just use a basic attack to have a burn on the enemy, you can burn the enemy using any attack from Himiko. That makes her really, really good In the fire dot team, you could put Sampo with Himiko, Serval. You can make a dot team like that. You can also put, Himiko back into the fire AoE damage dealing team, right? You put Himiko with Asta because Asta boosts a lot of fire damage. You can also put Himiko with Hook because Hook also has dots in Hook's kit, which makes Himiko a very valuable character in that team comp. This is a huge change, and I'm very happy that they did this. Now, let's get into light cones. So Welt's light cone did get a change here. Now, I did not go over the light cones, so we'll go over them together, and I'll let you all know what this means. Oh, so they pretty much just increase the damage. So they increase Welt's damage, or whoever holds the light cone damage against enemies that are debuffed. So if you have this on Welt and the enemy is slowed, then your damage will be increased by 24% instead of 20%. So this is a very nice C0 buff or R1 buff all the way to R5 because it gets stronger with constellations or refinements, on the weapon. But it's much better now than it was before, right? The effect hit rate for this attack is 18% instead of 20%. That is a slight nerf. That means you have to give the character more effect hit rate in order to land the debuffs. But 2% late game doesn't matter. It just matters early game when you won't be able to have the accessibility to stats like you would in late game. Okay, Jeopard's light cone increases the wearer's defense by 24% and effect hit rate by 20%. So this will help with landing debuffs whenever you have Jeopard's light cone. I believe he has a taunt in his kit, right? A taunt, as far as I know. I could be wrong on this. Let me know for sure. Effect hit rate is increased by 24% instead of 20%, which is a 4% effect hit rate increase. This helps with stat building on the character. That's pretty much all they did buff was the effect hit rate by 4%. Nothing really sizable. Like, I can't say you would want to put this on March 7th. Yeah, I don't believe you want to put this on March 7th, and only because whenever you use March 7th, let's say you're using Clara, March 7 Clara, you ideally don't even want March 7 to be hit by the enemy. So you probably want to have this on just Jeopard unless you're using March 7th without Clara, right? For every enemy on the field, increases the wearer's attack by 8% up to 5 times. When an enemy is inflicted with weakness break, the wearer's damage increases by 24%. So the attack has been increased by 1% at the R1 copy. So the first weapon copy you get, you'll have a 1% increase. So now you have a 5% attack increase overall, which is pretty massive. You have a 6% increase on the wearer's damage whenever you inflict weakness break on the enemy. So this is overall a net positive for Himiko. A nice buff. Yanqing. Okay. So increases Yanqing's crit damage by 32%, or anyone that wears this artifact, right? Or weapon, light cone. The wearer's basic attack does not result in a critical hit. Increase the crit rate by 40% for 1 turn. This effect can only be triggered 1 time every 3 turns. Okay. They decreased it to 30% and then in crit rate 4%. So they actually nerfed Yanqing's light cone. So it has 2% less crit damage and it has 4% less crit rate. Okay, interesting. So maybe Yanqing was a little too strong from the testing that was done in the closed beta test. Now, a lot of people have been saying that Yanqing has been really, really good, a really solid single target DPS character, and I don't disagree with that. I think against ice element enemies, especially bosses, he shines the best there. He is best in slot against single target enemies that are ice weakness, right? No one's going to deny that. But this little tweak to the light cone does hurt the character a lot. But I mean, look, hey, it's Yanqing, right? So you will just put a different light cone on Yanqing. You know what I mean? Like this sucks, right? Don't get me wrong. It's still a very nice damage increase overall though, because you're getting 30% crit damage and 36% crit rate anyways. So it's still a really good light cone to have on your character. It does make building the character a lot more easier. So let's say you don't have very many stats in the early game. Well, you're getting a 36% crit rate increase on Yanqing with a 30% crit damage increase, right? Makes it so much easier to build the character early game, especially considering all the crit rate and crit damage increases he gets in his kit already. Clara's light cone. Let's see here. So it has a 4% attack increase instead of 20%. Interesting. And she restores HP equal to 8% instead of 6%. Okay. And then the wearer's damage increases by 24% instead of 20%. Interesting. Okay. So overall, just a very net positive buff to Clara's light cone. So whenever you hit the enemy, and this can only trigger 1 time per turn with a counterattack, then you will heal HP equal to a percentage of your attack. and then the damage will be increased until the end of, your next turn, pretty much. So all it really is a straight damage and heal buff to Clara. Pretty nice. I like this a lot. This makes sense as to why they nerfed Bronya's kit. They want her to be more valuable with her light cone. Now, I'll be honest with you all, the light cone getting buffed is very nice. This is good for a character like Ting Yun, who really wants the energy restoration to be able to constantly get ult. But I'm going to tell you why this is a little disappointing. With a tweak like this, nerfing Bronya into giving her a better light cone makes it to where you want the light cone more now because of the energy restoration you get and the skill point increase. Now I know anyone that was going to get the light cone anyways for Bronya was going to get it regardless, right? Like me, for instance, eventually I would save up my star glitter and buy it from the shop for Bronya. But why I'm saying this is a little disappointing is because of the actual, like, what could happen in the future with situations like this, right? In the future, we could get characters that function better with their light cones than without it. And that's something I don't want to see go forward into the future of Honkai Star Rail. But I'd rather them not sell us light cones like they would sell us Constellation and Genshin Impact if it made sense, right? Now, this is just a one-time thing, right? It was a slight nerf to Bronya, which I guess was needed, right? Even though it is a full PvE game, I don't know why they nerfed her, but I'm just saying that this could be or set the precedent for what could come in the future. Just a heads up. And lastly, Bailu's light cone. They gave it a HP overall increase, which is nice. So now it is an 18% increase for the character's max HP instead of 12%. And that's pretty much it. It's still a really... Oh, they nerfed the additional damage? Oh man, that's actually really bad. Okay, so they nerfed the additional damage by 14% instead of 50%. Jeez. That's a huge nerf. Oh my gosh. It will make Bailu more tankier and give more healing overall because she will have more HP, but it's still a huge nerf because you can't make up for this damage percent decrease when you give her a 6% HP increase, right? But that's pretty much going to be it here. I'm very happy that they did end up buffing Himiko. This takes the cake for the best, reveal of the actual leaked patch, right? I'm very happy about this, and I'm looking forward to actually getting Himiko on my account because now she has more value, right? Being able to burn with any attack you use, whether it's a basic, an elemental skill, or an ultimate, makes the character a lot more valuable because then you have more DPS on downtime whenever you can't take the turn to attack the enemy. And what Himiko struggled the most with was doing anything other than big AoE damage, right? The character suffered against single target enemies, right? However, with this change, you can now use her more in the single target fire AoE, single target fire team with Hook and Asta, which makes her a very nice character now. I'm really happy about this change. It also makes her way better with farming too, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna end the video here. Thank you all for watching and have a nice rest of your day. Peace.